Born in Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, lived a little while in a little town called Stroud, Oklahoma. Had polio at the age of 8 at St. Anthony's Hospital in Oklahoma City, and lived in the basement of St. Anthony's Hospital for quite a while with polio and iron lungs all around me. It was quite an experience that shaped me to this day. I was in a wheelchair as a child, and now I'm back in a wheelchair again as an old age man. I went to the University of Oklahoma in Norman, Oklahoma. I'm walking in the main library, which is just gorgeous if anybody's ever seen it. And I'm walking there. I spent a lot of time there. I was a very lonely creature, and you can probably see why. And so I'm walking through the library, and another graduate student comes up and says to me, "Do you want a job?" I said, "Sure, I'm ready for a job." And he said, "There's an opening at a small college in Arlington, Texas, called Arlington State College." I'd never heard of it, but I said, "I'll go interview if that's okay." Went to interview, and that itself was a very interesting process. I walked into a building there at 12 noon, which is my scheduled time for the appointment, and my interviewer, the chairman of the department, was not there. And so I felt, is he staying away just because it's me or whatever? But he came a little bit later on. His secretary called him, and it was very, very interesting. You don't see this very often now. He literally told me all the bad stuff about the college and all the people he did not like. I didn't know the names, but it started with the president and worked on down. And this man had great political connections, so nobody was about to touch him. But I liked him very much. His name was E.C. Barksdale, and very interesting man. I moved into a little apartment right across from what was called Arlington State College, which at that time was part of the Texas A&M system. I moved in there. I lived alone in a one-bedroom, one-bath apartment, $99 a month, furnished. Not bad, $99 a month. This is the summer of 1965. I moved in there, and I was very lonely, not married, no girlfriend at the time, and you can understand why. Just look at me. And so I went into Dallas quite a bit, had some friends there, came back home, and lived alone. I remember I came home one night on a Sunday night, and there were police cars all around. I said, "This may not be the place to live," but it was okay. And I lived there, and then I went into Dallas, Texas quite a bit, and walked around a little artsy neighborhood. I was sort of an artsy guy when I was younger, and there was a man there, he and his wife. They were German immigrants. He was in the United States Army in the Second World War as an interpreter, and got to know him. He sort of liked me, and he had an art gallery called the Contemporary Art Gallery, and I had known these names, but I didn't know what it looked like. And so he introduced me to a whole different world of art, and the very first ones I saw were Marc Chagall, Pablo Picasso, Henri Matisse, Paul Cézanne, the great names in art. And I'm walking around, I said, "Boy, I love these things. How much are they?" "Very expensive." He said, I guess he trusted me. He says, "Just take them home and pay for them like you do a car." I said, "Okay, that's a deal." So I took all these things home and paid for them over a number of years. And after he passed away, his wife called me and said, "Do you know there's about 25 pages of writing here on how much you paid us over 25 years. And I was amazed at that myself. He let me pay it out. So I had in my apartment house all these Picassos, the real thing. Picassos, Matisse, Paul Cézanne, Rouault. And I said, "This is good stuff." And then I began to think about it. I'd leave the house at 8 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 7 in the morning, come back late at night, and I thought, somebody's going to break in. And so I began to think, this is ridiculous. Do something with them. Give them away. So I gave them away to art museums, colleges, universities, and now they're all over the country. And after I began to give this artwork away, everybody was very nice to me. And I always believed that there's something wrong about the world when some people have it so well off. And I did, even though I had polio. I was an ugly little kid, lived a very lonely life, really did. But I believe there was something wrong, whatever that word means. It bothered me that some people would have it so well, and some people so brutal. Life could be brutal. I look at YouTube as a lot, to put in a great plug for YouTube. All over the world, you look at the countries in the world, and even today, the poverty, the vast numbers of people. And so I began to think, there's a great danger in thinking. I would urge everybody, do not think. It's better not to think. And so I began to think about it, and I said, this is crazy. I'm here in this little apartment with all this huge artwork that could be stolen at any time. So gave away the artwork, and then began to give away whatever little money I had. The first money I gave away was to St. Anthony's Hospital in Oklahoma City, where they cared for me with my polio. I gave them, I think, $25 when I was very young, and that was a great thing to do. I carried that forward and began to just give away money. What else do I do? And so I didn't go out at night, didn't do anything, just sat around giving away money. And so it worked up to this point. So from the age of 8 until now, where I'm almost in my early or mid-80s, I've given away money constantly, almost every year. And by the way, it's all gone. So please do not contact me for money. I don't have any. Went to Arlington State College, and I began to, I'm sort of a ham. I think anybody that is on YouTube is sort of a ham. You want to get your name out there, your face out there, and something good about it and bad about it at the same time. But in the classroom, if you're going to be a good teacher, and I fashioned myself as a good teacher, I was pretty much of a ham. And it worked. I was something very different. This is Texas. I'm from Oklahoma, pretty close. But I began to talk a lot, and some students began to follow me around. And there was something good about that. I liked it. And they began to tell me they were very interested in politics in Arlington. These were the days of Vietnam. It was the days of upheaval in America, and a lot of it percolated down to the city. And so they said, why don't you run for city council? And I said, I never thought of that. And so I did. I ran against a woman in town, the sort of the pillar of the community, and I thought, this is ridiculous. I can't defeat her. And so I didn't, by the way. She defeated me. But what was interesting is all the establishment lined up against me. And I didn't know that they were taking me very seriously. Evidently, they did. And the whole town lined up against me. The newspapers, there is no radio station here of our own, but a very prominent newspaper at the time, and they were against me. All the establishment was against me, all the old mayors, and they even had meetings to figure out how to defeat me. And I had the students were, and I didn't recruit them, they just sort of came over. And it was a funny, wonderful thing. I met a lot of people, they were very nice, and I loved to get up and make speeches. We had big debates, and at a community center in Arlington, which is still around, we had big debates, and it worked. And so I became very interested in the community. Evidently, because I conducted a very nice campaign. It was, quote, a clean campaign, whatever that means. Even though some people fed us information that we could have used. But I said, no, just go at it straight away. And we did that. And because of that, the so-called establishment, after the campaign was over, contacted me and said, how would you like to do this? And be on this committee and be on that committee. I said, I'll do that. So I got pulled into the community. So by losing the election, I got pulled into the community. And it was good. I learned a lot. I got to know people, and politics was my deal at the local level. It was fascinating, and still is to this day. In those days, my views, this is 1960s into the 70s and beyond, the university was a place where you could express yourself freely. It was mostly controlled, at least in my area, by liberal Democrats. But they were a very interesting group. They defended free speech. They were very strong on that. In fact, I remember the chairman of our department, and I didn't know anybody in our department very well, but just got to know him in a very superficial way. And I'm walking down the hall one day, and he comes up to me and he says, if anybody from the dean's office asks you how this person is, tell him he's great. And I knew what it was. The administration wanted to get rid of this person. In those days, there was no tenure. And so when they finally came up to me and said, what do you think about this guy? I said, he's great. So I began to ingratiate myself with the chairman of the department, and they were very kind to me and very nice. By the way, at that time, most of the people in my department were veterans of World War II. And my father was too. But we had a great chance to talk. Friday afternoon, we'd get together in the office. The school sort of closed down on Friday afternoon, and we got together and they told war stories. It was very fascinating. It was a time of a lot of joy and commentary, but the university nourished that. They nourished controversy, and I was right in there. So I could talk, say anything I wanted to. For that reason, I attracted a lot of students. I said things that a lot of people had never heard before. I began to question everything. Everything in life I began to question, and still do. And you make a lot of friends that way, and you also make a lot of enemies. But generally, it worked. It was a wonderful time. I've been very, very lucky. Life is mostly luck, but you got to take advantage of it, and so I did. I did not have any children purposefully. I think here's where I get very controversial. I think having children in this universe is just maddening to me. Whenever I say that, people look at me and they want to strangle me. You don't want children? That's right. The world is just too harsh, too miserable for me to bring a living creature into this world. I wouldn't bring an ant into this place. But I love animals. I love dogs especially, dogs, cats, everything that you find in the zoo I love, and we ought to take care of them. And so I'm a vegetarian now, maybe about 99% a vegetarian. I eat a little bit of fish sometimes, and that's even bothersome to me. So I don't do anything. I think killing things and chopping them up and eating their flesh is just ridiculous. But that's what people do. So you can't question people too much on their daily lives, because it's something that they do, almost instantaneously without thinking about it too much. My problem is I think about it. And so how these animals are killed, how they're butchered, hunting, it just drives me nuts. But I went hunting. One day in Stroud, Oklahoma, Thanksgiving, one of my cousins said, if you don't like hunting, well, why don't you go with us? It's deer season. You'll like it. And so I went out. I hated it. It was much, much worse than I ever thought. They thought they were going to convert me to that. Instead, it turned me completely off. Anyway, life was pretty good. I didn't have a child on purpose, no obligations, no wives, no anything. It was just me and the little bit of money that I gave away. My failing is I have an inferiority complex. Maybe a lot of you can see that already. And I always thought of myself as just not being quite with it. And everybody else would go out and play football, and I'd watch. Play baseball, I'd watch. I'm an observer. More than a participant, I'm an observer of life. And there's something really scary about that, when you simply look at what's going on instead of participating. Most people participate. I don't. I even went to a lot of football games at the University of Oklahoma and just looked at the crowd. And what is this? You know, and everybody screaming, yelling, kill him, knock him down. And I'd say to myself, this is crazy. But what do? You live your life the best way you can. And I drank a lot of Cokes. Instead, everybody drinks. Not everybody, a lot of people drink liquor. They take dope. I think everything is an escape. I think that's a Buddhist idea that everything is an escape. We're here in the world and you escape. I think having children is an escape. It gives them something to do. So when you see these women who go around, and men too, I'm so busy, I'm going to take my child to the doctor, and I'm saying, they love it. And without that, they'd go berserk. So they love the work that having children brings to them. But I never wanted to go in that direction. I've been very lucky. I won some teaching awards in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s at the university. These were university awards. And it surprised me, but some students nominated me. And I've always come off better with the students than I have the faculty. And so some students nominated me, and I won. And I was off and running. I thought this was terrific. But I really enjoyed it. And so those are my proud achievements, our teaching awards. I went from those awards to maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I won this award from the University of Texas system called the Regents Award, getting big time. So I went from these little awards at the university level all the way up to the top. But it's good, it's wonderful, but you also create a lot of jealousy, a lot of consternation. How'd that little creep win this? But I did. And so that's made me very proud. But my proud achievements are giving away money and see my name on a ballpark, a baseball park, or a softball field. And I really enjoy that. That's a very proud thing for me. And then people began to criticize it. What are you doing, putting your name on things? And then I began to think about it. There are people, many people in our society and other societies that actually pay to have an agent to get their name out. In the entertainment industry, the athletic industry, professional sports, they have agents to promote themselves, and they compete against each other. And this is my name, and they love it. The Walk of Fame in Hollywood is a good example, where all these great stars who have hired these agents to put their name on things. And there it is. And they love it. I don't begrudge them. I think life is that way. We all want to be recognized. At least I do. I don't do much. I haven't contributed much. But in my own mind, I like it. And then sometime later on, I met this wonderful woman in the UTA library, Ruthie Brock. And she's been with me for, I don't know, almost 50 years. And we just got married about a year ago. We've been with each other for 50 years, but got married a year ago in a great ceremony. And then afterward went to, in the marriage license office here in Texas. We walked in, and our audience this was our marriage. Some guy in the back was sleeping in the back of the marriage office, and looked around. But it was great. We got it done fast, and then went to eat a hamburger. And I didn't eat the hamburger. I think I got a veggie burger. So that was about it. That was our big marriage ceremony. But she is my strength. If I didn't have my advice to people, find somebody that'll stick with you for life, because life is going to be bumpy, as you can tell. And you don't know what's going to happen to you. Find somebody that'll help you cross the street. And if you don't, you could be in bad shape. But if you do, you'll be very blessed like I've been. And one thing you do in life sort of pulls you into another. So as I began to do all these things, ran for office in Arlington many years ago, teaching politics at the university level, inevitably I got pulled into the media world. So they say, could we do an interview with you about Dallas politics? And I say, oh, I'm ready. And so I discussed it. And one thing led to another. And so eventually I was on radio stations, and still am. I'm on Fox Radio about once a week. They give me a list of stations, and they call me, and I really enjoy it. Although, only bad thing about it is you have to get up so early in the morning. And so I get up really early in the morning, because usually these are on the East Coast, and I'm here in Central. And so they'll call me my time about 5 or 6 in the morning, and sometimes earlier than that, but it's a little bit later there. So it'll be 6 there, it's 5 here, I think, if I have my ideas right. Or maybe it's the opposite, I'm not sure. I've never gotten that figured out, how we do Central Time and Eastern Time and all that. But I'm on it on Fox Radio, and I really enjoy it. Once a week, sometimes more than that. Sometimes they'll call me early in the morning and say, somebody couldn't make it today, can you fill in? And I really enjoy it that they trust me in that way. So I'm on some radio stations, not as much as I used to, but there was a radio station in Dallas many years ago, Channel 8, which was an ABC station. It's still there, but I'm not sure if it's an ABC station or not anymore. I think it is. But anyway, the station said to me, we'd like to have a segment, The World According to Saxe. And I thought, okay, that's great. And there was a photographer who sort of liked me at the time. That was the heyday of television, and television stations were making lots of money. So they assigned him to me, and he did this in his off time. And I guess they paid him overtime to do this, and we went around just doing the craziest things. And people seemed to like it. I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and it was called The World According to Saxe. And I really miss it, but it took up a lot of time. I'd be at the station, the television station, till sometimes 3 or 4 in the morning, watching them edit everything. But it was enjoyable. I did that for a long time. So I've had little experiences, but it all came out of, there's a little town in Texas called Arlington, Texas. And I really enjoyed it very much. Now I want to be a movie star. And then a lot of people say, what do you believe? What do you do? I've gone to churches sometimes in my life. I joined some churches when I first came to Arlington. But when people ask me, what's the meaning of life? Okay, this you may not like, but it's honest. I don't think there is any great meaning in life. I think we create them. There's a philosophy about that. We create our own meaning. But I try to be nice and gentle and kind to people. And most of our religions, I think, try that. Be nice and kind. That's all you need to do. I don't think you need a great religion or philosophy. Just be kind and nice to people. And if there is a God, you'll be rewarded. If not, you will know the difference anyway. So that's about it. And I appreciate everybody watching. Just be kind and nice to people, especially to dogs and cats. They're wonderful little creatures. And so be nice and kind to them, and hopefully you'll be rewarded at another place in life. Thank you for watching. This is Allan Saxe signing off.